And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, California Attorney General Rob Bonta was in Sacramento County today to announce a takedown of a human trafficking ring. And, of course, whenever Rob Bonta is going to talk tough on crime, you know he's going to be armed with a bucket full of cliches.
I do want to take a moment to extend my appreciation to our law enforcement partners who this critical work couldn't be done without. We're at our best when we work together, when we team up, when we use our resources for force multipliers. We can do a lot more together than we can on our own. So I'm so grateful for the partnership.
I'm telling you, there's something in me bones that tells me his career is going to end in a massive scandal.
Well, you saw the story that came out about him today. Rob Bonta got a big donation from an owner of a casino that his office is investigating.
Nothing fishy there.
As California's chief law enforcement officer, public safety is job number 1, number 2, and number 3. It's our North Star.
Massive, massive scandal. And you can see this ship headed right for the iceberg.
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion, and this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
He's going to need those buckets full of cliches, dump the cliches out, and use it for water to toss overboard. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, we have been spending a lot of time on this program talking about California's insurance crisis. The governor would like to avoid it. The legislature would like to avoid it. The insurance commissioner would like to avoid it. And everyone who has some degree of power over fixing it would like you to look somewhere else. By and large, the subject has been ignored by most of the mainstream media. Some outlets have been covering it recently. However, the story is difficult to cover in the sense that the insurance commissioner won't talk about it. And many of the other principals won't talk about it. It's hard to do a story if no one will cooperate with you. Well, President Trump has taken an interest in California's insurance crisis. He brought it up at the town hall meeting that he attended on Friday of last week. Since then, our insurance crisis has started generating national attention. And recently, Randy, ABC News did an investigative report.
This was on ABC News nationally last night. Let's go to this report on California's insurance crisis with ABC News.
After every tragedy, every natural disaster, eyes inevitably turn toward the future, toward rebuilding both homes, schools, and businesses, but also a sense of comfort and security in their community. But in fire-ravaged Southern California, it may not be so simple. For the last few years, some insurance companies have stopped offering fire coverage.
More than just some.
Oh, yeah, including some of the bigger companies like my company, State Farm, will not sell the policy I currently have if you tried to buy it today.
Or others have pulled out of the state entirely.
How about Farmers that has dropped policies all throughout the state of California, but still has enough money to sponsor that golf tournament at Torrey Pines this week?
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
Or others have pulled.
Or let's not forget State Farm, like you said, dropped a lot of the policies in the Palisades. The Rams couldn't play in Los Angeles for their last playoff game, so they had to go to Arizona and play at State Farm Field.
How fitting.
Or others have pulled out of the state entirely as we march toward what some experts are calling an uninsurable future, leaving so many with limited or no options to protect themselves and start over.
I'm telling you, this whole house of cards is coming down and the whole concept is going out the window.
Every time I get a renewal from State Farm, I'm surprised.
How did this happen, and what does it mean for the future of natural disaster-prone states? ABC News investigates. Here's our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman.
Oh, boy, I hear ominous music.
Well, it's a story about insurance in California. What are we talking about here? Fire, mudslide, earthquake?
We're talking fire.
For weeks, we watched as parts of the City of Angels burned.
Everything is catching fire here.
The flames scorching everything in sight.
You feel how powerful that wind is.
A wind-fueled inferno where gusts approached 100 miles an hour.
And where was the mayor?
She was at a cocktail party in Ghana.
The most destructive fires I've covered in my 24 years as a reporter. So far, about 13,000 structures have been destroyed, an estimated tens of billions of dollars in economic losses. We've come to expect that insurance companies will fill the gap, but the destruction here is so vast and the costs so high, there are questions whether there will be enough insurance money to rebuild.
There won't be.
You know what's funny? In my own personal life, and I'm not talking about anything scientific here. I'm not talking about any study I've read in an academic journal. I'm not talking about something taken from the business page of the newspaper. I'm talking about of the people and businesses I know. The only ones outside of automobile accidents who have ever been paid out on an insurance policy, singular, I've always suspected fraud. If you actually got paid, my guess is you did something illegal. Whenever someone's home burns down in a legitimate fire like this one, they always find a loophole not to pay you. They always find a loophole to take forever. It never works like it's supposed to. But if you want to remodel and you don't want to fork up the money to renovate the kitchen of your restaurant, and all of a sudden there's a suspicious fire over the weekend at night, boy, they show up with one of those Ed McMahon checks.
It's a nationwide trend in the wake of disasters amplified by climate change that some experts say is part of our uninsurable future.
Whoever coined that term loves it because they've used it twice now in this piece.
Uninsurable future?
Yeah.
And homeowners like Jules Fawn are on the front lines. On Tuesday, January 7th, she'd been on a walk when her husband Terry called. He was panicked, telling her they needed to evacuate right away.
This fire's getting worse.
If I just would have gone back earlier, I could have taken pictures, albums. They're things that are not monetarily worth anything, but sentimental and mean so much, and I won't ever get to see again.
Jules and Terry are now living in a
hotel.
hotel.
Randy, everything else can be replaced. You can buy a new car. You can get new furniture. You can buy new beds. But the pictures, those are something you can't replace. And your children and your grandchildren are going to have no idea what everyone looked like before Ozempic.
Jules and Terry are now living in a hotel with their dog, Coda. Almost everything they had went up in flames. They'll have to file a claim under the California Fair Plan to see...
That's not going to be a fun process.
Why are they on the Fair Plan?
They'll have to file a claim under the California Fair Plan to see what they can get for the total loss of their home. The Fair Plan is the insurance of last resort here in case of fire damage, but now nearly 500,000 Californian households are on it. It's typically more expensive with more limited coverage.
And that plan has been a ticking time bomb for something like what happened 3 weeks ago to happen.
And even with the limited coverage, they're still going to go broke.
The funds had to sign on after State Farm didn't renew their fire policy last fall, just a few months before the fire destroyed their home.
We've been a State Farm customer for more than 20 years. We paid on time. We never made a claim. There's no reason for them to drop us.
Think if they just took all of those premium payments and put them in a bank account for 20 years. They might have enough to rebuild.
Not in Palos Verdes.
Well, there is that.
State Farm is in the business of risk. It's the largest property and casualty insurance provider in California and in the nation. Its advertisements promise to be there for you in times of need.
No, we get it. I'm not playing the ad. You got to pay for that here.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there is not ringing true right now.
State.
Yeah. They all have to stop it with, we're in your hands, we've got your back, we're your neighbor, because they're not.
What do you think they're going to change the jingle to now?
Like a deadbeat dad, State Farm is never there.
No, because right now they're like a Karen on the HOA board.
State Farm, they betrayed us.
I can see how she feels like that. You pay that company for 20 years, and then they decide to screw you over?
It's hard not to get conspiratorial if you're them. What did State Farm know that we didn't?
In a letter to the funds that they provided to ABC News, State Farm cited substantial wildfire hazard as part of the reason they decided not to renew their fire policy.
Yeah, but hasn't that same hazard been there for 20 years?
Yes, but State Farm wants out of the market altogether.
State Farm told ABC News that their non-renewal decisions were not made lightly and only after careful analysis of their future capacity to serve their customers. They also
What about the customer you just dropped?
Oh, they don't care about her.
They also said that they understand this is a very difficult time for those impacted by these wildfires and that they are on the ground helping our customers recover.
And that's why they had to cancel their Super Bowl ad, because it would make them look super crass to have Arnold Schwarzenegger pull someone out of a burning building right now.
Could you imagine what kind of blowback they'd get if that actually ran?
Additionally, they said that they have already put over $500 million back into customers' hands since the start of the wildfires this year.
Yeah, but how about the people you dropped 2 months ago?
And they dropped a bunch of them. And it wasn't just there. It was in, I think, Bel Air and the Hollywood Hills and other parts of Los Angeles.
State Farm's decision is now increasingly common among insurance companies who are dropping customers in California.
Insurers absolutely want to be doing business in a state like California.
Sean Kevelin, the CEO of the Insurance Information Institute.
The III.
III?
The Insurance Information Institute, a fake organization that's supposed to tell you how great insurance companies are.
Sean Kevelin, the CEO of the Insurance Information Institute.
III.
That sounds like something Speedy Gonzalez would say.
Says this decision to not renew customers in California was inevitable. But that's not what the companies want. He blames California regulators who adjust rates on behalf of their consumers. He says they've kept rates too low to accurately reflect the amount of risk in the state.
So they bought and paid for their own insurance commissioner named Ricardo Lara, who just gave them everything they wanted on a silver platter, and they still pulled out of the state.
I'm telling you, if we got rid of these regulations, what would happen is the insurance company would get in bed with the Greta Thunbergs and the Al Gores of the world, and they would take the most alarmist predictions and forecasting of what global warming will produce in California and use that to set your rates.
When they're forced to underwrite in a way that's simply just not profitable, and they have to send those non-renewal notices that you're talking about.
But regulators disagree. They say they're keeping rates fair and affordable for Californians. But it's why
I'm going to guess Ricardo Lara did not talk to anybody for this.
Like always.
But it's why insurance companies say they're walking away from people like the Fonz rather than risking losing money. We spoke to several consumers in California.
Wait, their name is the Fonz?
Yes.
Like Happy Days?
Not the Fonz, the Fondas.
Oh.
F-O-N-D, not O-F-O-N-Z.
Okay, so they weren't wearing leather jackets in the interview.
As far as I know.
We spoke to several consumers in California, one of whom had been with State Farm for over 20 years. And she felt betrayed, she said, by State Farm when they didn't renew her.
Insurers are not making these decisions in an easy manner. But
No, they're usually using a drone and giving you BS.
I'm surprised all the drones are in New Jersey. Shouldn't they be here, since this is where they're kicking everyone off their policies?
Insurers are not making these decisions in an easy manner, but they are at a point where it's been decades at which they've been unable to price insurance in California in a way that reflects the high level of risk.
But still other California homeowners, even those who didn't lose their homes in the LA fires, say they also felt betrayed by their insurance companies. ABC News
I feel like we're moving to the spying part of this story.
You can tell by the music.
ABC News finding a class action lawsuit outside San Diego where plaintiffs are suing Liberty Mutual, alleging they engaged in, quote, unlawful and fraudulent actions to wrongfully drop homeowners' policies.
I got a letter in August telling me that it's not going to be renewed, my policy, and they told me that I have algae, moss, mildew in my roof.
And how would they know that?
My guess is they flew a drone right over her house.
How exactly does a drone know if you have moss in your roof?
Well, remember when they flew a drone over someone's house in Northern California and they had solar on the roof and the drone picked up the solar as broken shingles?
Liberty Mutual had taken...
It's almost like they're finding any excuse possible, legitimate or not, to drop you.
Liberty Mutual had taken an aerial photo of her home.
I couldn't see what the arrow was showing, so I decided to hire a contractor to inspect my roof.
The contractor found her roof to be in incredible shape.
I went back to the insurance company telling them what the inspector told me. They said, there is no way will insure your home.
And that's the kind of business practices that make me think the insurance companies are not on the up and up with all this, and they're not just the victims of Prop 103.
No, but it's hard to tell just exactly what's going on because you're not really even hearing from the other side because Ricardo Lara doesn't talk.
Since filing this lawsuit, I've talked to over 100 people with very similar stories. They've challenged it in the same fashion Maria had and came out with the same result that Maria did.
Liberty Mutual told...
Now we're getting to the serious part of the story.
Think about this for 1 second. Ricardo Lara is the elected insurance commissioner in California. Shouldn't he, in theory, be banging on pots and pans on behalf of California homeowners and insurance policyholders? And then compare that to what happened on Friday, where Donald Trump came to town as a federally elected official, the president of these United States, top of the food chain, top of the pyramid, and he acted like a ward councilman trying to get permission for homeowners to be able to go back to their homes. Look at the difference between the two.
Liberty Mutual told ABC News that they could not comment on pending litigation.
Have you heard of lawsuits like this, and what's your take on it?
My take is that we have a...
I'm going to guess he's pro-insurance.
I think you're probably right.
The III, they have a certain viewpoint.
My take is that we have a significant legal system abuse problem in the United States as it relates to the insurance industry. More often than not, the consumer is going to litigation first when it used to be a last resort.
Yeah, because you don't pay out your damn claims.
III, by the way, is something you say when you touch a hot pot.
Or when you talk to this guy.
More often than not,
it's a chicken or egg thing. Is everyone suing the insurance companies because they don't pay out? Or do they not pay out because everyone's suing the insurance companies, then they wait for that?
Good question.
More often than...
This whole system is unsustainable.
More often than not, the consumer is going to litigation first when it used to be a last resort.
But Michelle believes this case is indicative of issues in the wider industry.
I think that they have done a very good job of being like, poor us, there's fires, there's floods, there's storms. And what they leave out of that is the fact that they're making more money than they ever have.
Oh, are they? I mean, they got to pay for that freaking emu.
Well, all of that information is public. These are publicly traded companies. This shouldn't be a mystery.
They're supposed to be a risk-bearing industry. But now, even the slightest hint of what might be a new risk, and they're walking away. The insurance companies have bulked up their profits even as they were walking away from our state and our communities.
The ominous music is back.
Again, how odd is it that the elected insurance commissioner isn't part of this story? You have everyone else advocating for homeowners and policyholders, including the president of the United States, but not the guy who was elected to do that.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
Oh, we know.
The property and casualty insurance industry, which includes homeowners, auto, and business, altogether made record profits in 2023 with $88 billion.
Oh, so they're not broke.
Now, the question becomes, though, were they making money in the California market? That's the question, because that's what's relevant of what's going on right now here. And I bet you they were.
Well, based on the doubling of my auto insurance premiums, yeah, they're making money.
Last year, they shattered that record, making $130 billion in the first 9 months of the year.
A primary rule of being in business is to be profitable. So taking aggregate figures from an industry that represents a large amount of our economy and employs over 3 million people in this country.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
No. I don't care about flow right now. I got bigger problems.
I don't know who at the III said this is the guy that should go on national TV to advocate for the insurance companies, but he is not selling his cause one bit.
I think we want to also put it into perspective about these large numbers that we're talking about here.
Sure, we say we're broke, but we're making a bunch of money, but we employ so many people. We have to have people on the phone to tell you no.
I wonder if res for State Farm is domestic or that's in the Philippines too.
Climate-related events have caused substantial damage, resulting in insurance companies issuing large payouts. A Senate committee found that insured losses from natural disasters in the U.S. now routinely approach $100 billion a year.
The homeowners insurance market has been more challenging for the insurance companies, but they still have so much money to invest that they are doing fine.
They have naming rights to several stadiums throughout the country.
That just seems like a waste of money, by the way.
How about the golf tournaments?
Well, don't the waste people have that one?
They're using this recognition of increased disasters as a chance to change the rules of the game so that they have to take on less risk and earn more premium.
They're writing less policies, and yet they got approval to jack up everyone's rates even more.
Less risk for the insurance industry has meant pulling back from a number of states. ABC News analyzed data to find that the industry was issuing non-renewals most frequently in 10 states that saw extreme weather like hurricanes or wildfires, with average premiums increasing by 33% between 2020 and 2023.
And that's including Florida, that doesn't have any of these regulations that they complain about in California.
No.
And areas with severe weather events taking an even bigger hit.
The way they respond to that is by raising price and writing less insurance. But in the long term, that gets outrun by the fact that climate change is only getting worse.
Dave Jones.
Wait, Dave Jones is in this story and Ricardo Lara wouldn't do it?
There's something fishy really going on in that office. We had him on the show. I think you were gone when Dave Jones came on the show as a guest.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what he does. He essentially blames everything on climate change. Every problem with the market is due to climate change. And he brings it back to that over and over and over again. The problem with his argument is this. If you actually believe what he's saying, then you need to marshal all kinds of government resources to make sure that fire has what they need to fight fires, to make sure that there are controlled burns, to make sure that there's plenty of water in all of the hot spots. And none of that is happening. So if you're going to wring your hands and scream and yell about climate change and do nothing about preparation for what you believe is coming around the corner, then your arguments are hollow.
Dave Jones served 2 terms as the California Insurance Commissioner.
Pretty sure he was bought and paid for by the industry, too.
These national insurance carriers are obviously for-profit companies. Should we blame them from pulling out of places where they think they're going to lose their shirts?
The major driver of climate change is our failure to transition from fossil fuels and greenhouse gas emitting industries.
Here we go.
So he wants to take this legitimate crisis, this legitimate subject, and make it about something completely different, which is now what Sacramento is doing. They want to go after the oil companies and blame the oil companies for it. Well, what they're doing is they're shifting blame, because if you blame the oil companies for the fires, then you take the heat off the mayor for allowing a reservoir to be empty, for cutting the budget of the fire department, for text messaging all the wrong people to evacuate, and all of their other sins.
The U.S. insurance industry invests over $500 billion in the fossil fuel industry. Why are U.S. insurers allowed to invest over $500 billion in the very industry, the fossil fuel industry, whose emissions are making it challenging, if not impossible, for them to write insurance for real people and real businesses?
You know, Ricardo Lara, you can blame a lot of this crap on, but this jackass was in charge for 2 terms before Ricardo Lara. We've had nothing but empty suits in that office for going on over a decade.
Yes, and he's reading this all wrong. I'm sure they invest their money in the stock market and whatever they think is going to be high performing. That's what we all do with our investment dollars. However, it's not the oil companies that they're in bed with. They're going to be in bed with the global warming alarmists because those forecasts will allow them to jack the rates up on everyone. The environmentalist wackos are in bed with the insurance companies. And I don't see how this guy doesn't realize that.
Oh, he's well aware of it. It also is kind of fascinating to me that all the money that we pay for premiums, whether it's car insurance or home insurance or rental insurance, the insurance companies take that to the stock market casino and go gamble with it.
But if you came out and said, no, California is not going to be falling into the ocean in 11 years, or whatever Greta Thunberg is predicting, and has been predicting, by the way, for how long? I mean, you can look at these videos of different politicians, including John Kerry, the climate envoy, and Al Gore, talking about what California is going to look like in 11 years, like 25 years ago, and it's in no way related to reality or what we live with today. But the insurance companies would love to use that forecasting to set rates.
I would argue that the investments of the insurance industry
All right, we're done. I don't want to hear that guy anymore. The III has had enough of for me.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is go to KABC.com, click on podcast, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. Do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and download all the podcasts. We want to give you as much entertainment as possible because we know what it feels like when you've got nothing to listen to in the car.
It's a bummer.
And coming up next week, we're going on the road.
How exciting is this? Come see us in Orange County next Friday. Come see Johnny and I broadcast live from noon to 3, Friday the 7th at Rove, Santa Ana. Rove, Santa Ana is a full-service EV charging station with 40 ultra-fast EV chargers, a 24/7 lounge with restrooms and free Wi-Fi, a car wash, and a premium convenience store, Recharge by Gelson's. We're going to have free samples from vendors and barbecuing going on, so come hungry as we broadcast live. Rove and Recharge by Gelson's are located at 1008 East 17th Street in Santa Ana, off the 5 at the corner of East 17th and Lincoln. We'll see you Friday the 7th live.
If you want to weigh in on what you just heard, the ABC News report on California's insurance crisis, give us a call at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to weigh in on California's insurance crisis, give us a call at 800-222-5222. Let's begin with Frank in Newport Beach. Frank, hello.
Hey, John, Randy, listen to you all the time. I was with State Farm on a fourplex up in Newport Beach. December, they told me no more insurance. And I've never filed a claim.
What's the fire risk at the beach? The sand is like one big ashtray.
Yeah, and it's all residential. But I probably spend on cars, umbrella policies, $18,000 a year in insurance, and they just let me go.
Did they give you any explanation as to why, or did they just say, we're not renewing you, thank you for your business, goodbye?
Yeah, I called my agent, and she said nobody knows. And we're definitely not in a fire zone here.
What was the process like to find a new company to take you?
Well, I found one that was very expensive out of state, and then I turned around and got another big company right here. I won't say their name, but they took me right away at about 3 times the original price at State Farm.
Yeah, that's the problem. When they dump you and when you go on the open market, it's not like you have any goodwill with the company. It's not like you have a long history with them. It's not like you've known the agent for years. Suddenly, you're just a random person on the street and they hose you.
Yeah. That's what, like I said, I never had a claim in 52 years.
Well, thank you for the call, sir, and I'm sorry that happened to you. Let's go to Barry in Huntington Beach. Barry, hello.
Hi, John. Hey, I'm with Liberty Mutual. I have a cabin in Big Bear City, California. Liberty Mutual gave me a non-renewal notice and said I had algae on my roof and said I have overhanging tree branches. Now I got to take care of all that stuff before they will renew. And they pulled back on the algae because I fought them on it. Now they're saying that the overhanging tree branches are the issue. And I don't have that. I keep my property clean. I even had the Big Bear City Fire Department give me a report a week ago, and I had to pay them to go out and inspect my property. They said I'm in compliance. I'd like to somehow fight the insurance company and Liberty Mutual in general, because I've been with them for 40 years on that property since 1985. Anyway, that's my story.
Did you ever have any claims with them on that particular property?
I had one claim on snow that was heavy snow, and it caved in my roof at one time. And that's it. And yeah, we had to do some, drywall on the inside was all messed up. But hey, that's what you pay for insurance for.
This is something else that I've noticed. Of the homeowners I know in California, people are terrified to make any kind of claim against their policy for fear of being dropped. So even paying for it and having it, it still is unusable if you can't file a claim with them if it's a legitimate claim.
Agree. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the call, sir. I appreciate it. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Will writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com, and I got to be careful here because he gave Ricardo Lara a new nickname, and it's very similar to the nickname we had for George Gascon, so just keep that in your back pocket. Ricardo Lara could give a crap about the policyholder over the thieving insurance companies who issue these toilet paper policies. The only pots and pans our insurable idiot Lara bangs together are the ones over his own head while picking his nose. Loser.
So during the commercial break, Randy and I had a conversation, and I think we figured out what's going on here. So Ricardo Lara is a partisan left-wing Democrat, so he's never going to run as being the candidate that favors the insurance industry. So what he does is he runs on the platform of supporting California's price controls, essentially, which is what we have on the insurance market. I am consumer friendly. I believe in all of these regulations. But then he's playing footsie with the insurance company. So the insurance company is getting him to allow them to drop everyone's policies and then create this mad scramble where the people whose homes are in the most fire risk areas go to the FAIR plan, and then everyone else gets dropped from one policy and has to go find another. Well, if you get dropped from your policy, then all of the goodwill that you have, all of the credits that you have, all of the time that you have spent with that company, that gets erased, and then you're on the street and you have to go buy a new policy at market rate. Compare this to housing. If you have very strict rent control and people are living in units that are artificially low as to what they should be on the open market, well, it's fine as long as you can stay in that unit. Fine for you, at least. The moment they kick you out and you have to find a new unit, you have to go back to paying market rate. So the regulations are there, but if you're displaced from your unit, the regulations don't really matter because you have to find a place at market rate. That's what's going on right now with the insurance industry in California. They have every motivation in the world to drop you from your policy as long as they find a proper excuse and get you to buy it from somewhere else. And as long as they do that enough with enough companies, then it works out for them okay. And if the government gives them a wink and a nod and says, okay, this is what we're going to do to keep you afloat and keep you in the market, then from their point of view, everything wins.
They have every incentive to drop you, and Ricardo Lara has either willingly or unwittingly played right into their hands.
In this scenario, the insurance industry wins, the insurance commissioner wins, and it's the consumers that lose. Let's go to Vicky. Vicky, hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi there.
Hi. I wanted to make a comment. Ricardo Lara, who's supposed to be California's insurance commissioner, has no experience in the insurance business. So why would he get appointed to be in charge of all the insurance in California? Because he's a Democrat that needed a place to be put, and our elections are corrupt, so we never really know who's getting into these offices. But if you don't have experience in insurance, how can you negotiate with insurance companies for the people that live in California?
Well, Ricardo Lara was not appointed for that office. He was elected, and he is a product of term limits, where you go to the assembly, then you go to the Senate, then you need some other office to run for, and the one that was open at the time that he needed an opening, that he thought correctly that he could win, was insurance commissioner. And you're right. He had no background in insurance. It was just...
Right. So why would you appoint somebody?
He wasn't appointed.
No. Why would you even allow somebody to fill that position?
Because he was the Democrat in a one-party state, and they just looked at his party affiliation, and that's all it took. And that leads to awful government. It leads to the death of state and local government in particular, because you have someone who is not qualified in a sensitive position, and we're all paying the price for it. Thank you for the call.